At 12:32 p.m. on April 7th, 1945, a force of 10 ships was located about 120 miles or 200 kilometers south of Japan when they were attacked by nearly 400 United States carrier-based aircraft. This is now the legendary Operation Ten-ichigo, which involved the largest, most heavily armed, and most heavily armored battleship constructed in history to date, Yamato. By April of 1945, Yamato was the only operational Japanese battleship, as the other four that remained afloat were in various states of disrepair, lacked fuel, lacked ammunition, or lacked crew members. Even with these problems plaguing the Imperial Navy, they still managed to collect 9 warships to escort Yamato, and within these 9 was the light cruiser Yahagi, which was the 3rd Agano-class light cruiser. Now, regarding the ships lost at Operation Tengo, a total of 6 were sunk: Yamato, Yahagi, and 4 destroyers. Of these 6, Yamato is the only one that has been discovered, and it's the only ship that has received extensive documentation regarding its loss, to where a bulk of the torpedo and bomb hits have known hit locations. Today, we are going to expand our look at the loss of Yahagi. With the first attack wave of United States aircraft beginning their runs at 12:32, Yahagi would not remain in the battle for long. At around 12:45, 2 TBF Avenger torpedo planes dropped Mark 13 torpedoes in the path of Yahagi. Yahagi evades the first torpedo with it crossing the ship's bow, while the second torpedo strikes Yahagi amidships on the starboard side at 12:46, and it enters the vessel's starboard engine room, completely flooding it, and also damaging the central bulkhead, which results in the port engine room also being flooded, and the crew within both of these locations being killed. This is where a small note should be made regarding the Agano-class light cruiser's design, and it's the fact that the ships completely lack a torpedo defense system. They have a double outer hull for shrapnel damage, but the torpedo itself, after it punches through the outer hull, is actually exploding within major compartments. As a result of this hit, Yahagi grinds to a halt. The destroyer Isokaze pulls off to assist Yahagi, while the remaining 7 ships abandon Isokaze and Yahagi. The Asashimo had already been sunk. With Yahagi having clearly been immobilized, and the ship badly leaking its oil fuel, and the Isokaze pulling off to assist it, it became a favorite target for US pilots. It is often said that between 12:46 and 14:05, when Yahagi perished, she took a total of 12 additional bombs and 7 torpedoes. Unfortunately, the majority of these hits are not recorded, and thus that means that this number is possibly inflated because it's mainly based off memories of survivors from both sides of the engagement, but there are a few additional hits that have been recorded, though there are no specific times or order to these hits. It is said that a torpedo struck Yahagi at the stern around the rudder and propellers. This can be supported by the fact that in 2 separate photographs, Yahagi is clearly missing the very tip of its stern, which is also said to have possibly been caused by a bomb striking it. Another hit would be a 1,000-pound armor-piercing bomb to the No. 2 15.5 centimeter main battery gun turret. Based on photographs taken during Operation Tengo, it appears that turret number 2 was undamaged and largely operational for a majority of the engagement, and thus this leads most to believe that this hit took place later in the engagement just before Yahagi was sunk. Of course, the turret was not designed to withstand a 1,000-pound armor-piercing bomb, and it would be completely disabled and destroyed. The next hit that I have seen referenced was a Mark 13 torpedo that struck Yahagi near the tip of the bow, ahead of the No. 1 15.5 centimeter gun turret. Now, the damage the torpedo caused here seems to be unknown. One source stated that there was a hole punched through both sides of the ship due to the extreme narrow nature of the bow, while it also appears the bow might have actually been blasted off. In this photograph of Yahagi capsizing at 14:05, we can see many distinct details, such as the No. 1 and 2 15.5 centimeter turrets. However, it appears the ship has a clean break just ahead of the No. 1 turret and ceases to exist. Now, this photograph was clearly taken from a US aircraft flying by, from a distance, and the exposure is extremely poor, which completely drops the quality of the image, and Yahagi is engulfed in smoke and another bomb hit. So, it's possible the bow is still present and the camera did not pick it up, or the bow is completely missing. The only way to judge this is if the wreck is discovered, but even then there could be a problem with that, which I will get to in a few moments. Shortly before capsizing, it is said that Yahagi took an additional 3 Mark 13 torpedo hits, 2 to the starboard side and 1 to the port side, all amidships, and as a result of these, the ship rapidly capsized to starboard. Now the exact locations that these 3 torpedoes struck seems to be unknown. By this point, Yahagi was described as having a port bow list, which potentially means that the torpedo that struck the port side hit above the engineering spaces and into crew compartments, whereas the 2 hits to starboard most likely struck boiler rooms or even the engine room again. As far as hits go, that is all that has been stated. But there is one more piece to the story. As Yahagi capsized and vanished beneath the waves, survivors claimed they could hear the ship exploding underwater, which would suggest that Yahagi's main magazines, much like Yamato's, detonated. Now, if the explosions that were reported were indeed the main battery magazines, this most likely means that large portions of the ship have been shredded, and if the wreck is ever discovered, there will be no true validation to any damage examination conducted on its hull, as of course so much of it will be missing. Of course, without the wreck having been discovered yet, this is only speculation and cannot be confirmed. As a result of the ship sinking at 14:05, 445 of her nearly 1,000 crew would perish. Combining losses from all of the ships in Operation Ten-Go, nearly 4,500 sailors were killed, with about 3.3 thousand of these coming from Yamato. Yahagi has the second highest death toll. With that having been said, hopefully you found this topic interesting and have learned something new. If so, why not leave a comment and like down below? Have a wonderful day.